Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily, 32 female, and I've been married to David, 34 male, for just over 6 years. From the very start, our relationship has been one of mutual respect and partnership. We both work full-time, share the household duties, and enjoy a pretty quiet life. Of course, it's not without its bumps. No marriage is. But I feel proud of what we've achieved. We're a team, and we've worked hard to make our home a happy place. Then there's Lila. She's David's younger sister, and she's 30 now. From the day I met her, Lila's been difficult. That's the kindest way I can put it. She always makes me feel judged. I'm not sure if it's intentional, but she can't seem to hold back her comments. It's the little things, like side-eyeing my cooking and saying, well, it's different. Or questioning my career choices with, do you really find that fulfilling? I tried at first to chalk it up to her having a blunt personality, but over the years, her remarks have become harder and harder to brush off. She seemed to find pleasure in picking at every part of my life. What's worse is that David's parents adore Lila. She's their golden child, the one who, in their eyes, can do no wrong. When she makes a cutting remark, they just laugh it off or say, oh, that's just Lila. She's not serious. Meanwhile, I'm left feeling like I'm too sensitive or imagining slights that aren't there. David tries to support me as best he can, but it's tough for him to convince his parents that Lila's behavior is out of line. They just don't seem to see it. Or maybe they don't want to see it. Everything came to a head about a month ago. David's parents had invited us over for one of their big Sunday dinners, something they do a few times a year. Normally, I look forward to these meals, even though I know Lila will be there. The food is always great, and it's a chance to catch up with the extended family. I went in that evening with an open mind, determined not to let Lila get to me. For a while, things were fine. We exchanged the usual small talk, passed dishes around the table, and shared a few laughs. Then Lila, as always, found her moment. It started with her asking how David and I managed our household bills. Her tone was casual enough, but as soon as I started answering, she shifted gears. Emily, do you even let David spend time with his family? It seems like you're always keeping him so busy at home, she said. I tried to stay polite, giving a brief answer and attempting to steer the conversation in another direction. But she wasn't letting it go. Lila started hinting, no, outright claiming, that I was controlling, that I was somehow keeping David away from his own family. At that point, I could feel my face getting hot. I didn't know how to respond. I wasn't prepared for such a direct attack, and I was angry, but I didn't want to cause a scene. Before I could say anything, David jumped in. That's enough, Lila, he said. You don't know what you're talking about, and you need to stop making these comments. Emily and I make decisions together, and our finances are none of your business. Lila looked stunned, as if she couldn't believe he was standing up to her. And then the tears started. Oh, so now I'm the bad guy. No one ever takes my side, she said, her voice breaking. She got up and left the table, leaving an uncomfortable silence in her wake. Everyone else just looked down at their plates. No one said a word about what had just happened. I thought that might be the end of it, but Lila wasn't finished. Over the next few weeks, she started calling David's parents almost every day, telling them that I was pulling him away from the family. I wasn't privy to these conversations, but I could feel the change. Her parents suddenly seemed colder toward me. They began making little comments about how I ran my household, questioning whether I was making enough time for family. It felt like I was being judged at every turn, and I could tell that Lila's words were having an effect. Then I overheard Lila on the phone during another visit. She was in the next room, and I couldn't help but catch her saying, Emily doesn't let David come around much anymore. She's driving a wedge between him and all of us. I felt blindsided. She was spreading outright lies about me. I kept quiet in the moment, but I vented to David that night. He reassured me that I wasn't imagining things and admitted that his parents had been expressing doubts about our relationship. It hurt more than I could put into words. I'd worked so hard to build a good relationship with them, and now it felt like all of that was crumbling because of Lila's gossip. The final straw came when a mutual friend gave me a heads up that Lila had been telling extended family members that I was financially exploiting David. This was laughable. David and I both work full-time, and I actually earn more than him. We split our finances equally, always have. But Lila was telling people that I was lazy, that I didn't contribute, and that I was living off David's hard work. When I saw the screenshots of what she'd said, I was shocked. David was livid. He confronted Lila, calling her out for spreading lies about me. But instead of owning up to what she'd done, she doubled down. "I'm just worried about you," she said. "I'm your sister, and I have a right to look out for you." She framed herself as the concerned sibling, just trying to help, and it infuriated me. It was clear that nothing was going to stop her from pushing her narrative. Then Lila announced she was organizing a family meeting to address what she called her concerns. I knew it wasn't going to be a productive conversation. She just wanted to make me look bad in front of everyone. I decided it was time to stand up for myself, but I wanted to do it calmly and with evidence to back me up. Over the next week, I gathered financial records, saved screenshots of her messages, and reached out to relatives who could confirm that Lila had a history of stirring up drama. By the time the meeting rolled around, I was ready. At the meeting, Lila wasted no time launching into her accusations. She claimed that I was controlling, that I kept David away from the family, and that I was taking advantage of him. I stayed quiet and let her talk. Once she was done, I calmly began presenting my evidence. I explained how David and I managed our household, showed proof that I contribute equally to our expenses, and even produced messages from relatives who'd seen Lila's behavior firsthand. I laid it all out clearly, factually, without raising my voice. Lila didn't take it well. She interrupted constantly, trying to defend herself, but her arguments were weak. When I showed the screenshots of her calling me lazy and claiming I was a gold digger, the room went silent. No one could back her up. She grew increasingly agitated and eventually stormed out, shouting that we were all ganging up on her. David's parents were clearly shaken. They apologized to me, acknowledging that they'd been too quick to side with Lila in the past. It wasn't an easy thing for them to admit, but it was a step in the right direction. Other family members reached out in the days that followed, apologizing for believing Lila's lies and offering their support. It was a relief to finally feel like people were starting to see the truth. Since that meeting, Lila's presence in family events has dwindled. She's kept her distance, and the family dynamic has begun to heal. David's parents have made an effort to rebuild trust with me, and I've started to feel more comfortable around them again. While the damage Lila caused can't be completely undone, I finally feel like I can move forward. It's been a long road, but I'm hopeful that we're turning a corner. Wow, Lila sounds like a real piece of work. It must have taken so much patience to stay calm while she was out there spreading those lies. I can't imagine how frustrating it must have been to hear her spin a narrative that was so far from the truth. Props to OP for sticking to the facts and not stooping to her level. Sometimes the best revenge is just living your life openly and proving them wrong. It sounds like OP's calm, measured approach really opened people's eyes to her manipulative behavior. And that's not always easy to do. OP handled it with class, and it's awesome that OP's husband supported her so strongly too. And now let's hear the community's opinion. That family meeting sounds like something straight out of a bad soap opera. Except instead of laughs, it's pure tension. It's wild to me that Lila actually thought she could call everyone together, paint you as the villain, and have them all buy into her version of events. I can't believe she didn't realize how flimsy her accusations were, especially with no actual evidence to back them up. Honestly, good for you for being prepared and standing your ground. The fact that you kept your cool and stuck to the truth is a testament to your patience and self-control. Most people wouldn't have handled it that well, and I'm glad you finally got a chance to set the record straight. That's some grade A, next-level audacity. Lila didn't just cross the line. She built a house on the other side, decorated it, and invited everyone over for a party. She sounds like one of those people who's so used to getting away with things that she doesn't even realize when she's gone too far. What she did to you and your husband was just plain wrong, and I can only imagine how exhausting it must have been to deal with her constant drama. It's great to hear that your family finally started seeing through her nonsense, though. It's not easy to turn the tide when someone's been spinning lies for so long. I'm glad you were able to handle it with facts and a cool head. Sounds like she's finally getting a taste of her own medicine. I think we have all had a Lila in our lives. A relative or an in-law who thrives on creating drama and making themselves the center of attention. What's so frustrating is how these types can influence others, even when their accusations don't hold water. The way you handled this is seriously inspiring. Instead of blowing up or getting pulled into her antics, you calmly gathered your evidence and let the facts speak for themselves. It takes a lot of patience and strength. I'm glad your husband stood by you and that people in the family are starting to see the truth. Hopefully this is the turning point and she'll finally leave you in peace. I, 37 male, was approached by my uncle, trustee of grandmother's, 95 female, still alive, estate, a month ago, and was told that her irrevocable life insurance trust, ILIT, of $800,000 was to be split equal between him, $400,000, and my mom, $400,000, upon my grandmother's death. My grandmother pays the premium each year out of her estate. Now, sadly, my mother died of cancer 2 years ago, and per the rules of the ILIT, I have become the sole beneficiary of my mom's portion, $400,000. Now, a week after being told of this trust, I received a call from my uncle stating that it was now my grandmother's wishes that I give his son, my cousin, 32 male, $200,000 of the $400,000 I inherited from my mom. When asked what money he will be giving to his son, my cousin, out of his portion of the $400,000, he said nothing. He will keep the full $400,000 because he is the son of the grandmother. If I were to agree, he would have me sign a contract saying I will give up $200,000, as legally he cannot change the rules of the trust or me as a beneficiary. Fast forward another week, and now I'm getting angry calls from my grandmother, has dementia, saying that she wants my cousin and I to have equal money, $200,000 each. It has evolved from $100,000 to $2,000, and now $200,000. She is unable to articulate where the money is coming from and alludes to it coming from me, my money, my will. My grandmother seems to have no knowledge of the trust being the source of the money, making it clear that my uncle has been coaching her and hiding the details of how the trust money is to be dispersed. To make matters personally worse, my grandmother recently asked if I wanted to be written out of the family because I'm being greedy. I have also received a text from my aunt, uncle's wife, saying that I'm a bad grandson and have no relationship with my grandmother, etc. All untrue. I love my grandmother dearly and want this to stop. Now, another issue is that my uncle is saying that there will be no money in her estate, will, at the time of her death, due to her high cost of living, and thus no money for me or my cousin will be available from her estate. This is why he wants my mom's and my inheritance to be split up for his son, who he says will get nothing from my grandmother. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to split my mom's portion of her inheritance, $400,000, now my portion due to her death, with my uncle's son, my cousin? Not the a-hole. If this is what Grandma wanted, she would have set it up long ago. Your uncle and cousin are greedy and think they deserve everything. Nothing to be lost from losing contact with them. Definitely not the a-hole. I'm glad you're standing your ground. Do not sign anything. Your uncle is absolutely in the wrong here. He's manipulating your grandmother as you believe. Get yourself a lawyer whose expertise is estates, stat. Your uncle more than likely is in the midst of making attempts to change the trust since he couldn't get you to sign away your rights to your money. He's the a-hole, big time. Not the a-hole. The trust was set up to prevent exactly this type of sketchy manipulation. Stand firm. I advise you to contact a certified elder law attorney or contact the attorney who drew up the trust. Your uncle is trying to exploit your grandmother for his own financial gain, and he is harassing you. Update. Spoke with attorney. Uncle is clearly in the wrong. It's an irrevocable trust and was set up this way and not to be changed. The money is solely mine as the beneficiary of my mother who passed. There's no legal standing my uncle has to demand this scheme he concocted. I have no obligation to do anything. If he wants his son to have money, then he can give him money. Not my mom's nor my responsibility. He said my uncle is being very greedy. He suggested I ask for a copy of the trust, and if it's not received, then he will demand it in a legal letter. As for the elderly aggression, he said my uncle is definitely unduly influencing my grandmother against his fiduciary duties. He suggested I speak with my cousin and see if he can calm my uncle down to give him a last shot at coming to his senses. If the calls increase from my grandmother, then I could register an elder aggression claim and take further legal action. Update. I have an attorney waiting to see how he proceeds. He sent me a video the day after my other grandmother passed away, saying, "Now I've lost 2 grandmothers." In the video, he shows the insurance premium bill and then shows himself crumbling it up in his hands and then tearing it to pieces. He also says it's my decision that I made and it doesn't matter to him. He used a sinister voice while speaking. Strange video. He did this on the day the premium was due to be paid. He texted me a few days before telling me I had a big decision to make. I am looking into removing him as trustee now with the attorney. I, 28 female, have been together with my partner, 36 male, for almost 4 years. He has 2 kids from a previous marriage, 7 and 9, and has always had an amicable relationship with his ex-wife. She has always been open about wanting my partner back and has said it to him and to me. She's made moves on him. However, he has always made it clear he has no intentions of getting back together. A few months ago, she was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor that will eventually kill her. Doctors are unsure of how long she has to live and have said it could be months or years. Due to her treatment, she asked my partner to take the kids full-time as she can no longer care for them. I feel really sad about it since I love the kids and think it's terrible they will lose their mother. But since her tumor is in her brain, it has changed her personality. She has become constantly rude and mean to the kids, constantly yelling at them and telling them hurtful stuff like, "Nobody loves you." She has refused to spend time alone with them and will only see them if my partner is there. She has refused to take them for an afternoon or evening, as she states she is not able to deal with them, and normally only sees them for a couple of hours at a time. I've been okay with my partner constantly going to her house since I understand the situation. My problem is, she has requested my partner to take her and the kids on a 3-day camping trip, just the 4 of them. She's already told the kids, and they were all excited. He called me today as he is frustrated and does not want to go as she has been rude and mean. He feels guilty as he believes he should allow the kids to see her. However, he does not want to spend so much time together. I told him I didn't feel comfortable with him going away for 3 days with his ex, in the woods on their own, especially when she has more than once made moves on him and is obviously expecting for something to happen on this trip. She states she wants to spend time with the kids, however declines any invitations to go to the park, games, shopping, etc. I told my partner I found it weird she would be so excited to spend such a long time with them, however is adamant to go and do other activities. I told him that I do not want him to go and that she can take the kids with her family, friends, if she is in need of help. He has not made a decision. However, he feels extremely guilty since it could be the last few times the kids get to spend time with her, not to mention the fact that she has already told him he needs to take them and has called him several things when he said he wasn't sure. I told this to a friend who is a single mom, and she told me I'm the a-hole as she is the mother of the kids, and she deserves to see them. I have no issue with that, but I do have an issue in them going away for 3 days. Am I being unreasonable? Am I the a-hole here? No a-hole. If she is losing control of her mind due to a brain tumor, there needs to be another adult there on the camping trip to care for her if she has an episode, as your husband will need to be responsible for the children. If she has a sibling or parent that could go with them, that would be ideal. Then another adult can stay with her in one tent and take her home if she gets sick or upset or can't handle the situation, and your husband and the kids can stay in another tent so he can supervise their time with their mom and support them. But it is unrealistic to think he can care for them and her in a campsite with no other help. A third adult should go on the camping trip. One healthy adult isn't enough to be responsible for a terminally ill, unstable adult and 2 children. The second adult on the trip could be OP, or one of husband's parents, or one of his siblings. No a-hole. Heartbreaking situation, but she's a health risk and not a safe person for your boyfriend to be around. In my opinion, she shouldn't be on a camping trip at this point in time without at least 3 additional adults to help with needs, the kids, and any possible emergencies. My father passed away when I, male 26, was 22, and my sister, female 29, was 25. With this in mind, my sister, after getting engaged, asked me if I would do the honor of walking her down the aisle. At first, I was elated, and so I enthusiastically agreed. Then things quickly changed after my sister realized that my wife was pregnant. In the preceding months, my sister made my wife's life hell, who initially had been one of her bridesmaids, but was relatively recently informed that she will not be one. Originally, it was fine, but as my wife's pregnancy became visible, my sister would at times taunt her and make rude comments towards her. During her bachelorette party, just a few days ago, she even yelled at her because she was ruining her fun by being too distracting and not drinking. I kid you not. The ensuing onslaught resulted in my wife being removed as one of the bridesmaids. She even left my pregnant wife on the side of the road as my sister made her way to a planned party, in part by my wife and in a limousine paid for by me. This, coupled with the fact that she had asked me recently to ask my wife to stay at home because her pregnancy will take attention away from her on her special day, just broke me. I called her up yesterday after I found out what she said to my wife and told her that I will not be attending the wedding and that she will have to find someone else to walk her down the aisle. That's when the calls began. Everyone has been calling me, telling me that I'm overreacting and that I am intentionally trying to sabotage her wedding. She even called to yell at me and told me she had always hated that bee while referring to my wife. I told her to duck off, of course. My mother has been extremely sympathetic towards my wife, and she agrees with me. My wife has been crying over this, and she has herself received an onslaught of messages. I blocked all my relatives, except my mother, of course, and am planning a trip to Disneyland for my wife and I on the day of my sister's wedding, as I already booked the days off from work, and Disney is where my wife and I went on our first date, when we lived in LA. This news has started its own onslaught. Nevertheless, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your sister made it impossible for you to participate in the wedding. Not the a-hole. Frankly, after what you described, I wouldn't even be on talking terms with her until she apologizes big time to your spouse. And anyone who takes sister's side after hearing the full story can duck off as well. You stood up for your wife when it was maybe easier to go along to get along. Good job. Your sister sabotaged her own wedding. I'm surprised that the other bridesmaids didn't pull out and that the groom still intends to marry her. Maybe they are birds of a feather. Of course, he may not have been told the truth of why you pulled out. Who leaves a pregnant woman out on a sidewalk and blames her for being a party pooper because she will not drink? A distraction for showing her bump? The whole wedding party on the bride's side are such a-holes for allowing this aggression too. There's a line where even the bride has to be told to stop. Not the a-hole.